That should say, right beside general fund, it should say FY 2021
What line?
22. So
Slash 22.
What,
top,
22?
basically,
Okay, got
it
it.
says 2021, it should say 21, 22.
You said line 22?
The very top.
No, up top.
Right there, after that sentence say 2021, it should say 2122.
Oh, I thought she said line.
Yeah, so, yeah, just clean that up and you'll be on point.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, because that's wrong.
Okay,
That's what he brings here.
gotcha.
Good, Councilman Green, good now? You good to go?
Yeah.
Good? All right.
I'm ready to go.
And of course, everyone knows, I'll go ahead, I know we had some viewers on YouTube this evening or live stream, so just to explain this, the general fund is paying for everything short of your utilities. So in the general fund, it pays for things like law enforcement, parks and recreation, public works, fire department contractors under that, and certainly administration that pays for town manager and all of the administrative staff. So that's kind of a sample. When we do these large infrastructure capital improvements like street paving, that's also in your general fund. So just to give that explanation, on page 1, all of this is your revenue. We are giving you some up-to-date information on the column that says actual amount 2020/21. And then we show you what you approved as far as revenue in the next column, 2020/21. The next column is the percent paid, or in this case, when you're talking about revenue, the percent that you collected. And this is through last week, so this is fairly up to date. And then finally, on the last column before the comment section, this is the proposed budget moving forward. This is the part that you will consider in approving or not in September. So, as you'll see, everything is pretty much the same. Our money for the state, because, you know, COVID died down a little bit enough to where everyone went back to functioning somewhat, those revenues will go up just a tick. And we didn't do, all things considered, under COVID, we really didn't do that bad as far as revenue. Of course, the main revenue for the general fund is your ad valorem taxes. That's line 1. So the proposed budget is $2,250,000. And that's your main budget. I'll just go down the list real quick and just stop me wherever you need to. The ad valorem interest on late fees and stuff like that will be something like 500. The local option fuel tax, this is determined by the state, 45,000. And these come in quarter. Some of the state money comes in quarterly, some of it comes in monthly. The new local option fuel tax, 20,000. Discretionary sales tax, 1%. That's 135,000. And that is the money that is determined by the state. That is actually the 1% surtax on items that are bought here in Palm Beach County, if that makes any sense. We get a share of that, and the share is based on the actual amount of sales tax that leaves Mangonia Park.
Go back to line 5, if you don't mind. I just need to wrap my head around, explain that sales tax that in the state of Florida we get a percentage. Can you go back to that from ground zero, please?
The 1% is the sales tax, 1%. Let me see, about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, 16. Back to 2016.
2016.
The county put a referendum out for a 1 cent, or 1%. Let me back up. It is a 1 cent sales tax on most of the items sold. And I can give you a list of what is under that and what's not. But there is an extra 1 cent sold in Magnolia Park, we get that 1 cent. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. Typically, it's gonna be anywhere from 130 to 140.
We voted to approve that 1 cent. So it went from 6 cents to 7 cents.
That's correct. Voters of Palm Beach County, most of that money, if you look at the pot of money, a good chunk of it goes to the school board, and that's a good thing. A chunk of it goes to the county, and then it's broken down by municipality.
My other question then, it's just this workshop, so I gotta
Right.
ask.
Go ahead.
My other question then, I'm not saying the county or the state is strapped, but why do we even have it when we start actually taxing? What's it for to cover specifically? One, and I know that was a ballot item that the state put on there and we voted for it, got approved, so now it's actually in motion. So
Correct.
do we really, why do we need this increase in what it's gonna cover? Be specific.
Yeah, specifically, that is for infrastructure improvements.
Okay.
Now, utilities is not covered by that, because utilities is an enterprise fund. So far, what we've spent our surtax money on, or our 1 cent sales tax money on, if you recall, 3 years ago, we had an emergency with our roof here at Town Hall. So we replaced the roof at Town Hall. While we were at it, we went ahead with the same contractor and replaced the roof at the community center. And this past year, what we did, the road paving projects on 53rd, East and Fairfield, that was funded by surtax money, 1 cent surtax.
All right, I hear you saying, this is for general, not utilities, that's what this 1% sales tax that got approved. But I'm outside and I may be ignorant or I just don't have all the knowledge, but I'm saying when we use that 1 cent sales tax to replace some damaged roofs, what happened to just having insurance on the property and let insurance take care of the roof? So why did we end up using that 1%? I'm saying.
I can't remember the specifics, but insurance didn't cover it. This is the bottom line.
With no coverage to insurance for the
We
roof.
had coverage, but that particular item they did not cover.
Okay.
I hate to go on record with something that's incorrect, but I'll
But,
find out the specifics. But I do know we did put in an insurance claim, and it was not covered.
Right.
And also, just for your knowledge, these surtax projects have to be approved by town council. So before we do anything, that's brought to town council. And also, let me add this, and then I'll move on.
Okay.
You can also have things for Parks and Rec. Okay? Anything that's infrastructure type projects, minus utilities. Yes, Ms. Green?
I understand what he asked you, and that's why I like workshops, because, man, that's, okay, nobody's in here but us. And Councilman, when you made the statement, and you made that before, when I ask the question, I don't think I'm ignorant. I think I'm learning. And if, say for example, if I don't understand and I will say I don't understand, it's nothing wrong. And I think that's why I like workshops. So please don't say that anymore, because it's not fair for you.
All right.
Okay, now, may I expound on what he's saying? And I'm not good with numbers. Now, that 1 cent sales tax helps us, you said it helped us to pay for roofs. And he asked you why didn't we use that 1 cent to pay for insurance? Now, help me here. Okay, that 1 cent sales tax goes for our insurance, right?
No, ma'am.
No. See, that's where it gets confused. Okay, the 1 cent sales tax helps us to pay certain items. So never mind. I was trying to answer his question instead of, I'll talk about it.
Let me help you out, Ms. Green, it's okay, and I'll clear it up. I was saying, couldn't we have used insurance as a funding method to fund repairs and replacements of the roof in 2 different locations.
Now,
He can explain to me that.
no, stop right there. That's where I want them to come in and say, maybe I'm wrong.
Oh,
And that was a good question for me to understand.
okay.
Because wouldn't this help us to, in other words, if my insurance is State Farm,
Right.
okay? And say I owe State Farm $5 a month,
Right,
and that 1 cent would help me pay that $5 on my insurance.
right.
That's,
In
and I'm
this
saying,
situation.
do you see what I'm saying?
In this situation, you're asking if that's what this 1 cent can pay for?
I was just trying to make sense out of how we pay insurance, what made up the insurance. That was all I was trying to explain. But never mind, I make it confused. Forget what I said.
Oh, okay.
Keep going.
Okay, just to close that a little bit, the 1 cent is specific to municipal projects,
Okay.
like in some cases sidewalks, roads, parks related stuff, improvements to town hall. Last week, we were talking about potentially some improvements to town hall that fall under that. It's got to be specific to improvements. Okay?
One more thing before you leave. On line 1, over here on comments, isn't that supposed to be DR 420?
It might be.
Well,
Number 1 on comments. And not DR
It
420?
might be. With my military background, I may have just automatically put DD, Department of Defense.
Okay.
It probably is DR.
And I can see that being a common median in the military guy. I can see it slip up.
You can see it though.
Line 6, FPL utility tax, that's a good one. 10% on electric services. Some of your bill does go back to the town
Mhm.
and all residents, so that's a good thing for the town. The same thing with the Magnolia Park utilities. The utility fund actually pays the general fund a little bit of money on our utility tax. So
okay.
that's an interesting thing that's done here in Florida that I wasn't used to, but that's local communication service, 68,000. That's where your people like Comcast, AT&T, Verizon, et cetera, they have to pay that.
Nine.
That's line 9. Line 10, that's what we were talking with Rob earlier. One thing that Rob is doing is going out and making sure people are up to date on their business tax receipts, or what we used to call business license. And that money represents what we get townwide. And that's a conservative estimate, but it could range anywhere between 50 and 60,000 typically. So we're estimating 60.
And that's annually?
That's an annual fee, correct. And one thing Senator Powell didn't mention, because it really didn't come up this session, but the last 2 governors have really tried to take that away from the local government. So we don't want to lose that 60,000. We also collect for Palm Beach County their version of the BTR, and we send that to them, and that's going to be around 15,000. Building permit fees, line 12. As you can see on the left-hand column, we've had a pretty good year. We budgeted 45,000. We are estimating that's going to be 75,000. That's probably conservative, but it's better to go conservative on revenue projections.
Double
The FPL franchise fees, another good chunk of money from FPL, 195,000. And that's pretty well set, as is line 14, the waste management contract. What will come back to us is going to be somewhere around 70,000. I think we're a little bit over that so far this year. So we're going to bump that up, still conservatively, to 72,000.
Can you bump it back up before we go to, line 13, branch F&L, franchise fees. And then in particular, where you got the comment, explain that.
We have,
Based upon,
we have an agreement with FPL that allows them to be the carrier of power in our town. And because of that, we're able to charge them a franchise fee. And I can't remember how long the agreement's for. I'm gonna say 10 years. I know we've renewed one since I've been here. So that must be a 10-year agreement.
do you know the name of the one you renewed? Can you recollect?
The Florida Power and Light.
Okay. It states something about new customers, et cetera. 13.
That probably is more, not saying that's an error, but that comment would probably work better for line 6.
Oh, okay.
The more customers in town, the more we get from that. But I'll check on that. That may increase with the number of customers. Impact fees, we're gonna have an impact fee workshop on August 10th. I'll be sending that out to you. Sherry and I talked about that. And, August 10th, we'll have an impact fee. So I'll try, if you don't mind, I'll defer most questions on that to that workshop.
That's 9:15,
August 10th at 6 p.m., that's a Tuesday.
okay.
And just for everyone's knowledge, Sherry sent everyone a picture of a couple of checks a week or so ago. And one check that we get to keep, the 187 or whatever it's for, that's not an impact fee. That was a capacity fee for the water plant. The impact fees for, let's just say the Meritage project, for example, those have not come in yet. That's going to be close to 300,000. For Parks and Rec, roads, and for buildings, those are the three biggies. So,
Did they give up on getting those impact fees reduced? I remember one meeting, he was trying to get them reduced. And the attorney said impact fees were not, we could not reduce impact fees.
what you
Is that-
can do to answer your first question, I don't know if they've given up or not. We haven't had any conversation with them. I can say this, I polled each one of you on how you felt about giving them a credit, and unanimously, there hasn't been any indication from any council member that anyone would be in favor of that. So as it stands here tonight, the answer would be no. The way that it's set up, the way that it reads in the code book is they can send a letter to the town manager and ask for an impact fee credit based on the work that they've already done. That's the way it's worded in the code book. Yes, ma'am.
When did we discuss lowering the impact? You said we had a meeting on, they wanted to get the impact fees lowered from 300,000?
The last meeting that he attended, he mentioned the town to reduce the impact fees due to some other, stuff on the entrance that they agreed to do, and he wanted to get the impact fees reduced.
I just didn't remember, that's why I asked, I didn't remember that.
Yeah. In fact, I think he had asked for it to be waived.
Oh,
And
no,
we
he
said, no
didn't
way,
do that,
we were
Cody.
not gonna waive that. So there's only a consideration may be made, we have in some cases, for some, reductions. But, that has to be agreed on by the council, and we really didn't get a consensus.
The whole 300,000?
We did not get a consensus to.
No, I'm saying, he want us to waive what?
91,000 for the road impact fee. he was saying based on what they've done or will be doing for, West Place, and because, they did some additional drainage plans on West Place that they felt like was above and beyond what they.
Well, he was just, I remember that, he was leveraging in that, I remember because there was a lot of things that was happening when he did his presentation, we were there on the dais, and that came up, which, Councilman Collins brought up, where he was trying to get it, removed away. And Vice Mayor kind of confirmed to him, I remember the conversation, because he was there trying to get some things moved, and we never agreed to that. He wanted it, you know, but we, as a council, we wasn't comfortable, we left it to legal and to work it out. That was the conversation that went on. But we were not going to waive it or take it off the books.
It's part of
He's a
doing
developer.
business, yeah, part of doing business with the town.
So the process for him would be, he would have to submit a letter to the manager. They haven't done that.
So they would.
But based on the feedback that I've received from everyone,
It's the cost of doing business.
yes, ma'am.
Something that I learned since I've been on this council, and it has stuck with me, and I just hope we all remember how a developer made us look like idiots when they built Hampton Court, when it came from impact fees. And let's hope we don't do it again. This, where we are right now, we need to increase impact fees. You know, we even discuss lowering. That's all I have to say.
And at that August 10th meeting, I'll also give an update on what Senator Powell was talking about tonight. How that may impact us on our ability to raise it.
That's right, amen. Discuss lowering.
Municipal revenue sharing, please don't ask me to explain
What line
how it
item?
works. I'm sorry, 17.
Thanks.
Okay.
When Sherry's back, she can give a good explanation on that.
Thank you.
Alcoholic beverage, determined by alcohol sales in Mangoni Park, we're projecting 700. Half-cent sales tax, that's by the state, and we're projecting, actually the number they gave us is the same thing they gave us last year, 141,682, so we left that the same. Now, line 20, we spoke on this a little bit last week at the workshop. If you look at, this is grant money that we've continued to roll over from the county. We get between like 6, 7, 10,000. Now it's up to 15,000 each year from the county to do small projects. We've been fortunate that we've been able to roll that money over, and now the rollover is 54,500. And of course, that's going to the park. As the mayor said last week, we need to kind of dust off those plans and have a conversation about it. So if you recall, at least 2 years ago, the county recreation department did us a solid and for free gave us 3 options on a park redesign. And what council can do is take those 3, merge them into one, eliminate some things, certainly council's call. But what we're going to be doing before we fund all of that, let me take a step back. When Senator Powell talks about funding that we've asked for on the state level, it's in the $400,000 to $500,000 range. That would be the makeover of the park. This 54,000, this is going to give us some water fountains at the basketball court that Councilman McConnell and now Councilmember Green have asked for. It'll give us a few additional park benches and some nice playground equipment. So it's not going to be the complete makeover, but this does help us considerably. And that will be in front of you before this fiscal year is over with, so we can decide what to do. Line 21, whoever asked a question about next year as far as the county money for code enforcement, there it is, the 15.6, that's line 21. Line 22, zoning fees, that's your site review fees. like Van and Nilsa, David Stambaugh, all of our consultants. Copies, that's very meager. We do charge a copying fee, and it's not that much anymore in the days now that we're at where people can email documents and whatnot. Line 24, fire inspections. We're projecting the same 4,000 that we budgeted this year. Line 25, I'm not going to be able to give you a great explanation on that, but there is $1,000 budgeted on that. I guess it has to do with the fire inspection. The alarm permit fees, 6,000. We dropped that down a little bit in this current year. Plan review charges, we're projecting at 2,500. That's line 27. Fines and I'm glad you can say that. Forfeiture. Thank you. We're projecting
Forfeiture.
8,000, same 8,000 we budgeted this year. Parking citations, we dropped that, or we kept that at 4,000. Local ordinances, those are your, some of your code enforcement liens that get settled. We just put a number in there, 10,000. We do anticipate there being some liens that are brought to town council for potential settlement in the upcoming months. Interest earned, line 31 on your banking account with TD Bank, 25,000. We upped that just a little bit because our balance has grown a little bit, so that's probably conservative. The leased office space, currently we have, and I'm on line 32 if I've lost you, I'm sorry, 6,000, that's Representative Hardy that's in there now. And the way that we've been doing this last couple of representatives, looks like whoever's in there next would probably approach council for the same situation. I know one candidate that's already said that he would be asking if he wins. So that's what that is, and that's 6,000. Community center rental, we've had a lot of conversations on this on the staff level. We're just amazed. Trina can correct me if I'm wrong. We're amazed at the number of people that's calling every week to rent our little community center.
So that's a highlighter.
They must feel like they're getting a good deal. But we're projecting 15,000, and as you see, we're in this current year, we're already past 18,000. We only budgeted 5,000. And then same thing with the park. That's just, we're amazed. Same thing, every week people are calling to rent that out.
No, going back to community center, if I may. We know that there's going to be consideration for additional repairs at community center for the ceiling, dropping the ceiling.
Yes.
And that should be divvied up in the fees. Has there been considered as to what that increase might be?
We haven't put anything on paper yet. I guess, and I appreciate you bringing that up now that we got it out.
$15.
No, we haven't really given any solid thoughts, except for the fact we've talked about that we probably do based on the demand, number one. Number two, there are going to, hopefully, with your approval, be some improvements over there, especially with the drywall and the ceiling. So, but we'll bring back a recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
And while we're at it, we might even take a look at the park and see if we need to increase that a little bit. Contributions, private contributions, this is largely, if not all, your Christmas program. The toy giveaway, the gift cards, the fruit baskets and all this. People in this community are very generous on this. And you can see, I would say largely the Christmas program, at $22,850 in this current year. We're going to go conservative. We'll say 15,000, but I think that'll hold up. Probably exceed that. miscellaneous income. I can't tell you everything that's in that, but I can give you an explanation. Obviously, some past due BTRs can go into that. The new code enforcement officer, he's brought in a little bit of that. Certainly not all of that. That 46,000 is BTR past due. Line 37, that's your billboard rental out here. We're projecting 35,000 again. Land searches, people are gonna buy a piece of property, they'll call the town to find out if there are any liens on that property. They get charged a fee for that. And that's probably a conservative number. Pardon me. Flipping over,
Page 2.
page 2, Paul Harvey would say. Page 2, in contingency, we are gonna put 50,000. Right now, that's gonna be a placeholder for improvements at Town Hall, the community center, and whatnot. We may take that 50 and before this budget process is over, distribute that out to different line items. May work out where that 50,000 stays there, you may take it out altogether. Now to the fun part, we can come back to any of this as you want to, the spending part. The first department that we look at, or the first budget department that we look at is yours, the legislative part. That talks about your salaries and your benefits, if any, contract services, etc. Pretty modest amount of money in the grand scheme of the budget, just under 80,000 projected for this year, same amount projected for next year. Nothing's really changed. Last year, we went down a couple dollars in different line items there, but this year we just left it alone. Any questions there? The next department is your administration. That's going to cover the salaries from everyone from the town manager to our deputy clerks, to our clerk, potentially a new bookkeeper. We're looking at a full-time person there. And I think you'll find in the audit presentation on August 3rd, probably the auditor is going to say, that's a pretty good idea to have somebody full-time watching the money. Somebody that gets up every morning with nothing but money on their mind. Okay? Magnolia Park money.
Well, that's me. I just don't have any.
Are you applying?
Maybe I need to hire somebody to find me some.
Now, in this line for salaries for the bookkeeper, since we did not have a bookkeeper for the full budget year, there's an excess in the, budgetary amount.
So what we did, the bookkeeper for this current year was under, you'll go down to line, you have to flip over to page 3 to answer this question. Nope. Yes. On page 3, line 64, where it says auditors and accounting, you look at that second column, that's what we have budgeted for our auditors and or accounting services. And if you see what we're proposed, we're dropping that number considerably and moving that money up to the salaries. So it wouldn't be a contracted person anymore, it would be a salary position. With your approval. But also under administration, that's where you pay all your fringe benefits for employees, salary, your unemployment insurance, your attorney's fees are under that. Your land planner, currently that's NILSA, that's line 62. Line 63, let me explain this a little bit. That is if town council decides to go back to a lobbyist. In previous years, up until this year, the previous 2 years, we had Sean Pittman. And with the COVID scare, I think the town council wisely decided not to do that, just in case. So, and plus, let's be honest, the state wasn't giving out as much money as they will be in the future or what they previously had. So, under line 63, the proposal in the general fund is $33,000. On the utility side, which you don't have in front of you tonight, but I can tell you, on the utility side, we put $15,000 toward this as well. So you have the previous agreement that we had with the lobbyist was $48,000. That would be the recommendation moving forward. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more conversation and or opinions. And speaking with all of you one-on-one, I get the sense this is something we at least need to consider. So, and I don't think this is a bad thing for me to admit. One of the young ladies that was here tonight, Kirsty, Miss Miles, when she reported back to me at the end of the session that none of our projects had advanced forward, I asked her, what can we do better on our end to get this? And she basically said, I'm not going to quote her, we need to get some representation. And I don't think she meant elected people, I think she meant additional help. So that wouldn't be a bad thing, I don't think.
So she was talking about a lobbyist.
Yeah.
Because I think it was the lobbyists that did a lot of pushing to help us get the money that we did get approved 3 years ago and 2 years ago.
That's right. Now, having said that, you know, we were really happy with Sean. I think Sean worked hard for us. Council may decide to go in a different direction. I think Mr. Pittman would be interested if approached. Yes, ma'am.
Politically, and it is political. Right now, we'd be wasting money not wasting money, but I be honest with you, just wait and see what's going to happen with the governor. Not with the governor, I'm sorry, after the election. After, what's his name? Omari's election. That decides whether we need to hire a lobbyist or not. I'll be honest with you. That came from Sean. That's from him personally. I mean, Attorney Pittman. So don't be worried. Of course, I just know he's gonna, Pittman's gonna win, but you know, you never know.
And right now, we're just focusing on budgetary arrangements for whoever we choose.
Well,
Whoever we
you
choose.
can take a gamble.
We're budgeted.
On page 3, this kind of,
Yeah,
you're right.
first section here kind of wraps up the administrative part of it. And you can see overall on line 82, there is a little bit of an increase over this current year as proposed. I don't think I'm leaving out anything that's extremely different from last year. I stand to be corrected on that. Going up a little bit in office supplies, we're over budget this year by 500, so we're going to bump that up a little bit just to make sure we stay in. I did bump up fuel on line 76 a little bit. Fuel's unpredictable.
Page 4.
We'll certainly higher right now than it was a year ago. So we bumped that up. Dues and subscriptions is the same. We went down a little bit on miscellaneous, education and travel. That's for the manager, town clerk, deputy clerks, 3,000. And we continue to ask for technology replacements, and that's a modest amount of 2,000. You know, little things like keyboard replacement. Trina was asking me about a keyboard replacement. That's something we had gotten on, we're trying to figure out. So there's always little things that add up on the computer. Line 83, Police Department, PBSO contract, that is not going to increase this year, that's good news. So that stays the same. The fire service, I don't know if everyone remembers or not. We have a contract with West Palm Beach for fire and rescue services. Last year, they were really pushing us to, hey, we haven't been charging you based on escalating cost, so we need to do that. And we were staring at about an 8% increase going into a new agreement. We were able to get that down to a 3% increase on an interim budget. So now that we have up to 2 years on an interim agreement, they're really wanting to start the conversation on what the permanent arrangement would be. I can project that they're going to be asking for that other 5%. So that's what I put in here, an increase of 5% over this year, which would put us at 351 rather than the 333,500 for this year. So that's just a little bit of a heads up.
Did they, or have they ever actually gave us a report saying how many calls they have out here? And I know we asked year after year after year, and we never got anything to see, they're talking about escalating costs. Well, how many calls do you have in Mangonia Park? You have no fire trucks in Mangonia Park anymore. You have nothing in Mangonia Park. And, how many calls, I mean, they know. I don't see why we can't get a report on how many calls they have out here, in a 6-month period, a year, or whatever, to see if a increase is, feasible.
So
Show us something.
they're supposed to be giving us quarterly reports. I think I've seen 2 since I've been here, so the point's taken. Now, what they did do, and trying to get us this new contract last year, they sent a very nice chart where they project that 2% of their overall calls are to Mangonia Park. I can get that out, dust it off, and show everyone. They're saying 2% of their call volume is to Mangonia Park. So,
Ms. Green is asked to be dismissed. She's not feeling well.
good night, Ms. Green. So I'll get that, and I'll get on them again about these quarterly reports. Like I said, I may have seen 2.
I mean, I know we've asked and asked and asked and asked, and I just wondered if we ever got any. I mean, how many calls do they have in Mangonia Park? Be nice to know.
Can I add something to what was on the chart? I think I mentioned that before. I can tell you that our revenue is increasing a lot from inspections because of the new, not saying that Frank wasn't doing it, but I've noticed that Caitlin, she's doing a large volume. I mean, I'm constantly seeing like 30 for Chester, she emailed me, and 30 men for Chester, 30 inspections sometime one day. So those 30 inspections generate revenue, whether they're different businesses being charged $75 or $100 a pop. So I think outside of the fire, because we subcontract with from fire, I think they also do other things, as far as our plan reviews and, like I was saying, inspections throughout the time. I think that's also generates out. They may consider that into fact. I'm just saying, I'm thinking. I think that's something they probably take into consideration why. I'm not saying that's 100% true, but I think that's something to, they probably look at. Just something for us to know.
Well, that's reasonable, that it's time served too.
And we can probably also see if we can get some type of, report or something for you guys to say, okay, well, they did X amount of, inspections through the town this month, or however y'all would like. We can probably see, me, myself, and Justin, probably see if we get some report for you guys.
To go along with the fire department work,
Yeah. Just something I want to, while we're in the conversation, so.
That's a good point.
So, if we're looking for justification on why they're wanting rate, what they're expecting, and what is the city of West Palm Fire Department? It's only so many fire rescue calls you're gonna make, but then you got new construction homes, they may have garages, they may have phone detectors, and you got people with generators, they may want to, when you run those lines gotta be inspected by a fire marshal, whatever. The doors, whether they got proper, way to get in and out of facilities and stuff, parks, so I get it, but you can start this conversation, Councilman McConnell, it's just a legit conversation to start. If they're gonna act for a certain rate, then at least should give us some justification of why you're asking for that amount of money. And that's just fair, that's fair, and I don't think we need to continue, but just asking, hey, give us some statistical data.
They have
Justify, and they have provided, so, when will our eyes see that as a council? I know staff does the committee and everything, and the manager, but when will our eyes see that, or residents see that, give us satisfaction, or give us assurance? I would love to see that data as well.
I'll provide everything that I have from them.
All right, so,
Let's keep in mind though.
yes,
It's kind of like the Riviera Beach thing.
yes, oh, well, we got a big boys tonight.
Just keeping it 100,
Keeping it 100, okay.
I mean, they kind of hold the cards.
First and foremost, I got it, okay.
So, I mean, I think they've been attentive to us. We've explained, especially their administrator, Ms. Johnson.
Okay. Frank is no longer there, forward.
No, Frank is,
Retired.
that's their fire inspector.
Okay, he's still there.
He's not, he's retired.
He's retired.
But, if it's justified, then it's justified. But, I mean, we've been asking for a long time for these reports, and
All right, so you're saying they hold the cards. We're not walking on eggshells, but they're holding the card. They're providing the service, and every so often that service that they provide, they want a specified fee for that service. It comes to council. We agree to it. It goes looked at by the attorneys. We make sure everything's looking good. We agree to it. Can someone give me a figure tonight? What we're paying? You probably gave it to me before, off the top of your head, just off the cuff. What
The total.
For fire?
for fire? Yes. I know you gave that to all of
Yeah,
them, so
I'm projecting 351 for next year.
to cover that fiscal year, yeah.
That's
All
a projection.
services.
They haven't given me a number to work with.
And the staff, Ms. Trina in Pacific has described that they're doing a lot of things and
So the other side of that, and they are, and it's no reflection on Frank or whoever, but the fact is, they're doing a lot more fire inspections.
Gotcha.
So I'd like to associate myself with that staff there.
Okay.
It's true. The one thing they may look at doing, they may say in the new agreement, we're gonna do X amount of fire inspections per year. Anything above that is gonna be at a rate of X amount. They may do that. I haven't seen.
Now, I hope I'm not getting off course, but it's
No.
relevant.
It's relevant.
What I'm about to say, and inspectors, I've been paying attention to, Surfside and the things that have happened there. I noticed that West Palm looking at, now this may be a structural engineering thing, but in the event that something happened to a building or dwelling, fire department to come in there and search the rent or whatever they have to do. So, if that factored in in the future, because everybody's like looking at structures, and we may not have necessarily, the amount of volume, but we have structure that's going on to level. And so if that's gonna be factored in the future with this fee that you're throwing out.
I don't know if we're gonna see it in fee or not. I can tell you, to your point though, in fact, speaking of Frank Stallworth, he was in my office the other day, just catching up with each other. And I posed a question, and I said, now, what was the responsibility in that situation, and what does that mean to municipalities moving forward? And the answer is pretty simple. I mean, you're gonna see the building code change. You're gonna see that, and based on that building code change, not just fire, but building inspectors like we have Bill here, they're gonna be inspecting based on building code.
So our codes gotta be, an ordinance gotta be right and written right.
We might, I think we are supposed to do an ordinance that basically says we are following the state fire code, the state building code. No, it's a good point.
It's coming, you know it's coming. Everybody's looking at Derry, Boca, West Palm, Boynton. They're looking.
Yeah, the other thing is, I mean, have you had any complaints or anything from residents about
As far as
the fire service,
Takes a long time, I'm coming at all.
EMT?
no,
I know we had to call them twice from my daughter, and I mean, they were right there, I mean, right there, right now. Now, I had one little incident in Palm Beach Gardens Hospital where they took my wife from the doctor's office to the hospital, Palm Beach Gardens. We got a bill for $750. And it was like the hospital was right across the street. All they had to do was come in, pick her up and go right across the street. $750. Now, West Palm Beach has come and picked my daughter up twice when she had cardiac arrest twice. We never got a bill from West Palm.
they were pretty responsive, pretty quick.
Quick, yeah, they were there quick.
I'm never gonna question their quickness.
And you know, you gotta put all that in perspective, you know. The service you're getting, you know. So I just, you know, like I said, I mean, we've been asking for the reports. I don't see why it's such a big deal. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong, you know. But why it would be such a big deal for them, you know, to give us a report of, you know, how many calls you had a month, or, you know, anything, just so we say, hey, you know, let's just not quibble over this. Let's just do it and get it over with.
And you did say you had two quarterly reports over a year span?
Over the last almost 6 years.
Oh, my, no. Okay, that's
Now, it may be more that I didn't see, but I know that I can only recall two. And the last one was after a similar complaint came up at town council, and we went and said, hey, we're not getting reports. I had one the next quarter, haven't seen one since. But
We're gonna be
Gonna have,
consistent with that.
we're gonna get up with them and see what we can do to meet that into them and ultimately see what our new rate's gonna be. And I do think it will go up some. And I'll get all the data that they've provided me and get that to everybody. Maybe in the manager's report this week, you'll have it. They're letting, as far as their negotiations go, I know last week it was their city administrator, and this year it seems more like the fire chief that's going to be Chief Madden she's gonna be, I think, discussing with us more than administration. So, I don't know if that's good or bad, but just as an update. Other questions? I'll jump into building, engineering, and code. Line 89. And that is what we would pay, and we haven't come close to that this year. That's what we would pay the special magistrate, not necessarily the attorneys, but special magistrate. Engineering services, of course, that's Dan on line 90. 32,000, same as we budgeted this year. Litigation attorney fees, we're hoping to not have that to deal with this year. The building official, that's Bill Dennison. 15,000 we have budgeted. Don't be surprised. We don't really know what to budget, but obviously he's going to be busy in the upcoming months, like on a daily basis.
We have several projects in the realm.
Especially,
And I think you reviewed with us another 12 projects in town. So, you know, all
and
those.
there's, I think he's also involved with BTRs and those type of things, plan review.
Okay.
I think Trina can verify, we've seen an uptick in permits. So we don't anticipate that slowing down. So that might be too conservative. Code enforcement officer, this amount jumps up because of the grant. Even though we're getting a grant, we still have to show it in expenditures. So it goes from 25,000 to 41,000. That's the 20 hours, just keep everything in perspective. 20 hours we have with Officer Cartwright, and probably the 11 hours we would get out of Mr. Major, Rob Major. Okay? Permits and fees, keeping that the same, those are pretty much mapped out, 4,000. And the rest of that part is on page 4. And you see it does go up a little bit, but again, that's the grant money that pushes that up in the expenditures. Solid waste agreement is going to be 6,000. Public works, line 104. Please stop me where I'm trying to run through so I don't keep everyone out too late.
I'm kind of there.
I hear you.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
We don't have a full account, even though this is a workshop, budget workshop, there's a lot of information being absorbed. Now, I'm kind of not attentive. So I'm kind of falling off the map, not physically actively.
I'm bored you to death.
And, we've already lost a soldier earlier. So is it possible before we get too in depth, I need to go back over these first 3 pages that we covered, just in case something I missed. But Vice Mayor, Councilman Cone, and can we kind of, it's not a regular meeting, this is a budgetary thing, I'm not saying table it, but I think at some point we need to, we gotta get home, I wanna get home, and we gotta get home. So with that, I'm keeping it 100, can we kind of, you know, stop it at that top point around 101 and continue the other section?
Well,
And that's just I'm suggesting, don't have to agree with that, what I'm suggesting.
I'm in agreement with you because we get through 103, we did say solid waste, we reviewed that. And this would be a good stopping point before we go into the public works budget, so I agree with you on that. It is 8:36, so we really have spent our time here tonight already. We spent our time already here, so we can and recognize this concern and also other health concerns that have been expressed tonight. I agree. Let's, all in favor of adjourning our budget workshop, tabling the remainder for our next session?
Which will be next week, we'll have another workshop.
May I have a motion to table the remainder for our next workshop?
Motion table remainder for the Workshop starting at, line item 104, Public Works.
All right, second on that? And now I take it as a second?
Second.
All right, great. All right, I think we have an agreement on that.
Forward something.
So I think you've done well to present all of this information. I did have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
On line 49, conference seminar for the legislative level, $1,000 for expended during COVID. I was just kind of wondering how did that happen? Was that just some, was that some fees or for conferences, or I don't know? Did someone go to a conference? I know everything was virtual, so I was just wondering how that $2,000 expenditure.
I have a feeling that wasn't a conference. I'll find out exactly what it was. I don't recall anyone in the past year doing anything.
That's what I thought.
Obviously, something got charged there.
Mhm.
Find out what it is.
Okay, that was my
Good
question. All right, thank you very much. Okay, we are adjourning at this time, thank you.
All right.
Given the